Welcome back to the healing playlist where we talk about music, we talk about healing. Sometimes we talk about both of them separately, but whichever. Hello. Hi there. My name is Desi and I'm the host of this channel. Thank you for tuning in. So for today's episode, I will be reviewing the new movie Michael. Just a little prefix. I wanted to make it very clear that I did not do any research on the movie. Of course, I knew who Michael Jackson was before. Who doesn't? He's a pop star that has basically made a new glass ceiling when it came to performers. I want to say specifically when it came to performing, when it came to people of color. He has made many records. I know for a fact that when it came to the Super Bowl, he has the number one viewed uh, Super Bowl performance, along with many groundbreaking freaking selling records when it comes to all his records. And unfortunately, he passed away back in 2007. So it's been almost 20 years since his passing. And I grew up with Michael, like many of us, grew up with his music, very influential. And I saw the movie this past weekend with my family, and I just wanted to make a quick review of it. So, a little also, please give some noise for my t-shirt. I got my t-shirt at Ross. I love it. It's my new favorite t-shirt. It's like pink and brown. Off subject. Okay, back to the road. But yeah. So, I watched the movie over the weekend with my mom and my sister, and I loved it. Unfortunately, when we watched the movie, I want to say mid movie, the volume went down to the movie, so someone had to make a complaint. Then they reversed or they rewinded the movie like a few minutes back, so there was like a pause. But regardless, the movie was enjoyable. I want to say when I saw it, I saw everyone of different backgrounds, different nationalities, different age groups, and it just shows how powerful his music is and how it was able to get different people in one building, and how it was a great movie overall. I really did enjoy it. Of course, there were some comments that I wanted to make throughout the movie, but let's just jump into it. So right away it starts with the Jackson 5. And also I want to make a note that there are going to be spoilers in this movie, so if you haven't watched a movie and you don't want it to be spoiled, I wouldn't suggest watching this video, just because I am going to spoil it, unfortunately. So little note on that. So first off, the movie starts with the Jackson 5, with them practicing for their performances. And one thing I noticed too is that Janet wasn't in the movie. And at first I thought, okay, maybe the mom is pregnant, maybe she's about to give birth, like maybe like in the next few like 20 minutes she'll give birth, or I don't know, like. But later on, as the movie progressed, Janet wasn't there, and along with there were other siblings that weren't in the movie as well. And I think I also didn't do research on this, but I believe they just didn't want to be part of the circus, just because his estate is so big, along with you see the mess that came out of his family once he passed, that included the estate. Like if I were the siblings and I had some type of traumatic PTSD, like I don't think I would want to be involved with that too, just because money's involved, along with I'm sure the family is just like a bunch of, I don't know, like cuckoos, like like something like I fully support Janet not wanting to be in this film, just because it just through the movie you can tell that there's a lot of toxicity within the family, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that we don't even know that weren't even in the movie, considering that one Michael has passed, along with there must have been a bunch of stuff that they really probably didn't want to reveal. So that was one thing that I noticed, and it was kind of weird because it's like I love Janet, so the fact that she wasn't in the movie was kind of but it kind of bummed me out, but like I get it why she didn't want to. Along with him being in his childhood, right away you see that he's shy, introverted character, and the reason for this, well, I believe why it was for this, is just because his father, Joseph, was abusive. His father would beat him along with his siblings if they didn't want to show up to practice, or if they weren't really fully there for practices, or any sign of uh, disrespect that Joseph like that was. Along with that was another thing too. None of them called their dad dad, they all called him Joseph. Like, that's freaking weird. Like, I don't know that maybe it's because he's an older, like, part of the older generation, but that's also like weird. Like, why aren't you guys calling your guys' dad? Like, I don't know. That was weird. So yeah, uh, very abusive father, and they might have cut back on a lot of detail on that because who really wants to like go into that detail. One comment that or one thing that I am happy that, or not happy, but one thing that I knew about beforehand watching this movie is the comments that Joseph made to Michael, such as referring to him as Big Nose, which then later on in the movie you see Michael getting a nose job just because of his father bullying him. And it just shows, and it just displays the body dysmorphia that Michael endured from his own father. And how sad is that? Michael's nose, along with his face structure before everything, was beautiful. It's just because his father just had a unhealthy way of talking to his family, and it was heartbreaking. Along with another thing that I noticed is throughout his childhood is that he didn't really have any friends, and they also mentioned that too in the movie. And part of that was because Michael was aware that he was a star. Michael was aware that kids his age, along with people, treated him different, and that's why he stayed in a lot of time reading books such as Peter Pan, and his love for books and his love for Disney. It's very prevalent in the movie. And I think it's just interesting at a young age that he was able to say notice that people treated him different, along with not wanting to interact with other children because of his fame. Along with throughout the or later on in the movie when he started performing, one thing that I never knew is that he would do affirmations beforehand of performing, reminding himself that he's creative, that he's kind. And I thought that was great that with now with healing, along with anything in wellness, there's you come across these videos where people in wellness try to incorporate affirmations or tell their audience to include affirmations just because it's it is important to remind yourself of who you are and what you do and what you view yourself, and to remind yourself that you're a kind person. So even to know back then that Michael was doing affirmations was very ahead of his time. That even back then he was doing affirmations before we had social media, before we had any type of, I don't know, like public, or I don't know, I guess like research where he was able to do that. And who knows how he got that? Maybe it came within him, or maybe he just knew he was him and would remind himself that, hey, you're kind, you're creative. And that's something that I also want to recommend others to, because it's easy to forget who you are, and incorporating affirmations is very important. It's a thing I need to do as well. And of course, and another thing that I also learned in the movie is when it came to Thriller in the movie, such an iconic short film for a music video, is that apparently during the time of filming Thriller, there was a bad gang problem in LA. So what Michael took upon himself is to recruit a couple of gang members and include them in the movie. And it just again shows how he was ahead of his time, that he wanted a unity, along with his willingness to make peace within. Really, he had no business in, trying to promote unity with a neighborhood that really wasn't his, but him taking upon himself and wanting to unify within the particularly the black community, because that's who the gang members were members of that. And I thought it was so astonishing, along with how kind he was, how he wanted to he wanted everyone to get along, and how he took it upon his music, and how music has no boundaries. It doesn't matter what background you are, is that he just wanted people to listen to his music and enjoy it, and people for it to enjoy it. And another thing that they included was the Pepsi scene, which was heartbreaking, because he did, in case you don't know this, but he was doing a Pepsi commercial back in the 80s or 90s, and there was a freak accident where the fireworks caught his head on fire, and he had a bad injury, and unfortunately had to go to the hospital to get surgery, and had to go through like rehab because there was like third-degree burns, I believe. And in the movie you see him visiting other patients that had burn degrees, and it's like, wow, even in a vulnerable moment where he's not doing his best, he's still helping out the public. He's still wanting to help out others and be there for patients himself. Along with the money that he made from that lawsuit, from that Pepsi accident, he actually donated to the hospital that was taking care of his burns. I forgot where it was, but once again, him helping out others, wanting to help out the community or that particular hospital. Like, I thought that was beautiful too, because of course, he was reckoning money, but it was in the millions that was from that lawsuit. And he just thought, I donate to here. Like, they've been nothing but kind, and like donate the money here. So I thought that was astonishing because I didn't know that till watching the movie. Along with Torch throughout the film, uh, Joe Jackson, very money hungry, wanted the family to go back into tour, and while seeking his independence, while having out his first album or two, that he wanted to go on his own independence and wanted to go down his own creative road. But Michael, being the great son he was, ended up doing that and ended up touring with his family members, and of course still publishing out his independent albums. However, so here the movie was 2 hours, and throughout the whole time I kept thinking, like, when are they gonna speed it up? Because I feel like his life, there's so many layers of it, and there's so many like attention to details that he did in as an artist that they wanted to include the in the album or in the movie. That So the movie was like 2 hours and like 10 minutes long, and so when it came towards the end, like when it was like in the 80s, I was like, okay, like how are they going to speed it up? Because, of course, like after the 80s, there's the 90s and then the 2000s where his vitiligo problem got very worse, where his skin texture changed, along with the PDF allegations that were given with him. Like, were they going to include that? And they didn't. And part of me was disappointed that they didn't include all of that, just because it does play a role on who he was. And of course, the allegations of him were wrong because the FBI had him under surveillance pretty much for over a decade and found no evidence on him. So of course, I was hoping to have that in the movie, but they didn't. They cut off the movie in 1988, where he's about to perform in the UK, where he has his world tour and his international tour, and that's where they cut off the movie. And that was kind of disappointing me because, like I said, I wanted them to include all of his life. When I went in the movies, that's what I was assuming, is that they were going to include the good, the bad, all of it. That's what I was assuming. But they ended it at in 1988 when he was going to perform in the UK, and that it was disappointing to see that they edited that, because part of me thinks like, okay, well, is there going to be a part two? And if so, is that going to be another 2 hour movie? Like, this is a 4 hour movie, and it's like, realistically, I don't know if I'm gonna have the patience to watch another movie. Realistically, I probably will, but like, I just wanted them to do everything in one film. But I also think it's part of, who knows, because the thing is, there's no guarantee if they're going to film a part two. Like, nothing has been released, to my knowledge. Nothing has been released if they're going to be filming another movie for Michael. But then the other part of me believes that, you know what, I would believe that during that period would be a very traumatic time for the family to include that in the movie, because it's already a tell sign. If Janet didn't want to be part of it, along with a few other siblings, they didn't want to be included in the movie. It's just, there's so many layers of his life that I don't know if the family would be ready to talk about that kind of stuff. So is it going to be filmed or not? I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell if they are going to publish it and include all of that part of his life. Regardless, we know the truth. It's been years since his passing, and if they do or not, I honestly don't care. I think overall the film was a good film. I just didn't like how they cut it off at that at the year of 1988. But like I said, I get it. Along with, it was disappointing to see some of his siblings not in the movie, but again, I understand, because it's probably something like legally, or along with maybe something PTSD related, and I get it because he's such a big character. Along with he was such a powerful, his aura, like he was such a great pop star, and for him to be one of the biggest pop stars within American history. And I was thinking about this while watching the movies. I don't know why I thought of Elvis and like all the great icons when it comes to music, like such as Elvis, Madonna, right? All those two names alone, right? I say them, and for me, what do you think of? I think of what their music is, their pop related music. Along with that, they're white. Michael was the first person of color and a black man to surpass a pop icon. And beforehand, and I'm gonna use Elvis as an example because yes, Elvis was known for copying other black artists, but he's the one who took the crown for that. He's the one that got all the recognition for that. Michael was the first artist to be really inclusive, really for people unity, and reach a high status of being an artist. There was a glass ceiling that a lot of artists, in particular people of color, that were I'm sure desire to reach that level of Michael. But Michael was really the first person of color when it came to being a pop icon. You think about how many years has it been that you still hear his music every time it's Halloween. Thriller's always going to be playing on the track. You turn on any radio, like you hear his music endlessly. And even now, since the movie was what's it called, released, is that it's been years since his passing, and we're still talking about him and what a great icon he was. And of course, some there are some it's like I don't know, like I guess there are some negative annotations of him, but overall, when it comes to his legacy, is that you can't deny his legacy. It's everlasting, it's timeless, and it really has no particular audience. Like his music was made for everyone, and I think that's what made his artistry so successful, is that he made music for everyone, along with his attention to detail, along with his empathy skills, for him to really feel when it came to any type of pain or love, for him to included in his music. Like you felt it, along with even from when he was a child, you could see the passion that he had in his music, and how such a icon he was even when he was young up until now. I remember when he had died, I had told my cousins, and it's so funny, like it because it was back in 2007, so I was at least like in the 8th grade or in middle school, whatever. And I remember when I heard that he had passed away, and telling my cousins because they were spending the night. And it's always like, where were you when Kobe died? Where were you with 9/11? Where were you with Michael Jackson? Like all these iconic moments in US history, that where were you type of moment. And I remember exactly where I was, even though it's been so many years since he passed. I particularly remember when he passed away. And it's so unfortunate of his passing, but I am so grateful I got to experience his music throughout my youth, along with his legacy means so much, in particular when it comes to people of color, just because there was this glass ceiling that he was able to break. Who knows, without Michael Jackson, I don't know if we would have a lot of who we would have when it comes to like other iconic music icons, such as like Bad Bunny, for example. Like I don't know if we would have all these, right? This is all hypothetical speaking, right? Because maybe they would, maybe we wouldn't. But how he set the tone for people in pop, people in with platforms like that, because ultimately he did use his platform for good. And overall, he was a great person and a very kind humanitarian. So extremely grateful I got to grow up with his music, and extremely grateful I got to see the movie. It was a good movie overall. But regardless, have you watched the movie? What is your favorite songs from Michael? If you have any, drop them in the comments below. And thank you all for the likes. Thank you all for the subscribers. Love you all. And that's all I have for today. But let me know if you've seen the movie or not. But other than that, that's all I have for y'all for today. Thank you for tuning in, and God bless, and see you on the next one.